Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we are back with another one. It is the Authority Project. I am Brian Arnold, your host, and I have my new good friend here, Nelly Yusupova, and she is here. She says she's going to tell you guys why you should build an app business in 2021. Is that right, Nelly?
Absolutely. I mean, think about the technological revolution that's coming. And if you're on the side of the market where you're actually solving problem for people,
Yeah.
then you are creating lots of opportunities for yourself for success. So we'll talk about that.
Okay, well, we shall see. We shall see on this episode of the Authority Project.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, feast your eyes and tune your ears. It's that time again. We are live with another episode of The Authority Project. It's the video podcast streamed on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Periscope, where we talk to digital marketers, business coaches, and creators of all kinds on how they've built authority in their field and how you can mimic their success. Developing authority, building your audience, and attracting better clients to your own business. Now, without further ado, let's bring to the virtual stage your host, Brian S. Arnold.
And we are back with another one, folks. It is Brian S. Arnold here. This is the Authority Project. You are the project. You want to slap authority to your name so you can sell more of what you're great at. And I am happy to have Miss Nelly Yusupova in the virtual building. How are you doing today?
I'm doing really well. How are you?
I am awesome right now. I just see that we're running into a huge storm outside. So I'm not sure how that's going to work out today. But maybe we can still work it out. So yes, let's start. I got so many questions, but before we do that, please tell people who are watching now and listening later who Nelly is. Who are you personally and then professionally?
Sure. So I am an entrepreneur. I am a mom. I am a person who loves to experiment and create new opportunities. And I work a lot with early stage entrepreneurs in the tech space. I love technology and want to infect everyone else with that same enthusiasm because there's so many opportunities in that space.
Okay. Very nice. Very nice. So tell us now what your daily routine looks like with all this technological stuff going on.
So daily routine from a professional standpoint, or like, what do I do at work?
You. How would that look like from morning to, I don't know, midday? Let's say that.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So I have 2 toddlers. So my morning is hectic usually. Once I get out of the house, I come to my co-working space. I live in New York City, currently work on the Upper West Side, and really enjoy this amazing space that I get access to. I have my day-to-day varies. Sometimes I have a lot of calls. Sometimes I'm on Clubhouse. Sometimes I am teaching and training and working with clients and doing a lot of coaching. So my days are very varied, and I work with different types of clients in different industries. So my days are very interesting and diverse, and I get to learn a lot about different industries as well, which keeps me on my toes all the time.
Awesome. I love it. I love it.
And then after work, I go to the park. I usually meet my family in the park in Sheep Meadow, where we just throw frisbees and run around and have fun, and then put the kids to bed. And there's the end of my day.
Awesome. Awesome stuff. Love New York. Love New York. So let's dive into this topic, Nelly. Why should we build an app business in 2021? What should we do this year?
Well, this year specifically is because of COVID. So, COVID has changed so many things for human beings, right? And the main thing that it did is it accelerated the adoption of technology by at least 5 years. So if you imagine pre-COVID years where people used to do things manually, post-COVID, almost every industry was forced to adopt technology. And now post-COVID world is even in the workplace is hybrid, right? Some people are going to be fully remote. Some people are coming to the office. And so when you are online constantly, you are forced to use technology. You need solutions to be able to solve these problems in a new world, right? The post-COVID world. And anybody who has expertise and who is able to identify a pain point in the market and is able to use technology to solve it and create a solution, and not just be the person who uses all the amazing technology, but if you have an insight on how you can solve a problem and use technology to be able to do that, then there's the opportunities are limitless, right? I mean, if you're thinking of any other type of business, you're constantly trading your hours for dollars, right? And in tech, if you are able to build a solution, you're selling the same solution to many different people. And if you are able to create a subscription business, then you're creating a recurring revenue business where, you can work from anywhere in the world. You can be remote. And there's so many positive things that if you're able to identify the problem, that's the key, that solves a problem for people, then you're golden. You have a lot of opportunities here.
See, the first question that pops up in my mind right now is this. Like, that's great. You're saying this is a fine time to do it, Nelly. But I just hear people saying like, there's already a Zoom out there. So what else is there to make? They got it all locked down. Everybody's Zooming. That's all they need to do. I mean, what else? Well, I want to, do I want to go there? Yeah. Maybe I will. I will go here right now. Are there evergreen apps that make sense to start with first?
Yeah.
In this thing, is there such a thing as that?
Yes, absolutely. So I think there is, the way that I would look at it is probably very not traditional, right? So we're not going to be solving Silicon Valley problems. These are the billion-dollar businesses that, you have to have a team, you have to have a big infrastructure, you probably have to raise a ton of money to be able to build billion-dollar businesses. Right. What I'm talking about is people who see problems every day, and they're not necessarily tech people, right? I want people who are regular people who see problems in the world, and I'll share some examples. So one of my students is a real estate person, right? So he is as non-techie as they come. Okay. And what he was able to do is identify a problem that he had himself. And he was just like, how can I actually solve this? He found the problem. What was that? Is that?
Yeah. Was he? That's.
Oh my God.
Yeah. That means you're really rocking and rolling here, Nelly. You're really bringing it right now. That's why.
I love that. So he was able to identify a problem and created a clickable prototype of what that solution would look like. And it was a problem for people like himself and other agents. Right? And no one else outside of him could see that problem because he was in there doing the work the day in, day out, and he was in the right place with the right expertise to be able to solve that problem. And so he took that prototype. It was not even a product. It was a clickable prototype, and took it to an agency and was able to pre-sell his solution and actually got paid in advance to build it. Right? That's the benefit of identifying a real problem. And so what I would encourage everyone here to do, whether you're technical, whether you're not technical, actually, the more non-technical you are, the more interesting ideas that you can identify, because your domain expertise puts you in a position to see those problems. For example, until I became a mom, I wasn't aware of any problems that moms were having, right? And so once you have any new experience or anything that you're doing on a regular basis, where it's a hobby or it's your work or anything else, it gives you a unique insight into what problems those people are having. And so if you're open to the idea that, hey, I'm able to identify a pain point, and then you see how you can scale that by creating a technology solution, using and leveraging technology, then that's where you can find a lot of ideas that are evergreen, that actually solve purposeful problems that Silicon Valley is not interested in solving, right? And these are things that can improve your communities, they can improve your friends' lives, people's lives are all around you. And there are real problems that need to be solved. And the only people can solve them are people, regular people, just like you and I.
I like that. I like that. So finding a developer though, because I remember I had an idea one time. My last quote was like $25,000. He said, "I'll make it for you." So realistically, when you're going out there trying to, pitch your idea, what are you looking at price wise? Where are you going to find someone who can actually build this for you?
Well, so I'm going to put this into perspective. Okay. You can get for the same exact project a quote for $5,000 and $50,000, and both quotes could be completely legitimate.
Okay.
And that's because the details of what you build and how you build it matter a lot. Okay. Yeah. So we'll table that for a second. Okay. I teach a methodology and a way for people to build products in the 21st century, right? Not how we used to build products. And the first two things that you should be doing when you come up with an idea is actually validate it. So most people, when they think of, oh my gosh, I have an idea, and they come to me and they say, Nelly, can you help me find a developer? Well, in my process, I have a 10-step process. Writing code is actually step number 8. That means that there are 7 steps that you're doing before you jumping into writing code, right? Which is what most traditionally people do. And that's when you will, your prices can skyrocket. And when you don't do a lot of the planning and you actually are jumping into coding too soon, you are going to waste a lot of time and money. And so the first 2 steps of that is actually completely non-technical, are the most important steps in actually building a product that someone actually wants. And the very first step is validation. This is where you're going to go and actually talk to customers one-on-one. And you're not going to ask them, are you interested in this problem? Do you have this problem, right? You are actually going to assess how people feel. What are the big issues? What are the big problems that they're having? And how do they feel about this type of solution, right? And it's really important to not lead them to a specific solution, but really to assess how high is that pain point in reality, right? Because you might have a hunch, but you don't want to take action on a hunch. You want to really make sure that this is a level 10, 11, 12 problem. Because if you can identify a real pain point, then you can build a painkiller solution. And it's going to be so much easier for you to convince people to not only use your application, but also to pay money for it, right? And so that's what you want to do. So first you want to validate and find a high enough pain point, really identify the exact market, the person, the type of person who will pay for this solution. And then based on that, you will build a clickable prototype. Again,
what does that mean? Clickable. What does that mean? Clickable prototype.
So a clickable prototype is basically a blueprint of what your application will look like. What does that solution look like? From a user perspective, it's actually clickable and interactive. And so it feels real, right? But it's not real. But what it allows you to do is to actually, instead of guessing what solution will resonate before you invest thousands of dollars into building something, you're actually getting customer feedback, you're refining all the issues, and maybe you even test multiple solutions for the same problem. And then once you do those 2 steps, then you are then getting into the planning. So those are steps 3 to 7. And you are not going to build the whole entire thing, right? This is how you control the cost. You're going to take a small, minimal version of it, what we call the minimum viable product. Right. And then you're going to build that, okay? And even the way you build that is very important. There's a lot of tools that are out there that will allow you to launch your products a lot sooner. Things like no-code tools and low-code tools and third-party tools and applications. You can literally take a lot of those third-party solutions and stitch them together, right? It's going to be like a hacked version of your solution. But what that will allow you to do is to actually see if anybody cares, right? You're testing your ideas all along the way, and you're not investing a ton of money doing that. And if you take this systematic approach, that's the difference. Remember, I mentioned $5,000 and $50,000. right? You're staying on a low end because you're testing all along the way and you're building and iterating to success. So it's very different to what most people are used to. But if you do this type of methodology and you really are strategic about how you put capital to work, you can get a lot farther with a lot less.
Let me ask you this though. Let me ask you this because just as a little aside, because my son is a coder. He's a developer, and I have his ideas. Like I'll say, hey Junior, I got this idea. His first thing he'll be like, yeah, okay. The usual tech guy. Yeah, all right. And so like his thought process is like, here's my idea. This is what I want this to do. His thing is like, I need to see this in I need to see, what happens when they hit the button. What happens when so he's doing it like step by step. Like what happens when they get to this page? I need to see this. I need to see like a story, the story frame kind of thing. So how is it when we're like, we have this idea, like you said, we're putting this all together, will it still make sense to the developer and how they process from, me doing this, that, and the other, and they're saying, well, I need to see this and that and the other. Is there,
yes.
How do we connect and do it the right way?
Yeah, so that's where a lot of issues come into play. So I created an entire curriculum that I call TechSpeak for Entrepreneurs around this, because I heard this problem over and over and over again, right? So a lot of ambitious, non-technical entrepreneurs, they find the idea, they do all of these things, but what they're lacking is the ability to communicate in the language that a lot of developers are used to.
Right.
And so that miscommunication is the number one reason why a lot of projects go awry. And so I believe there's, in order for you to get into this space, right, the barrier is very low compared to how much money you had to put in the early 90s, right, which is when I got into tech. You used to have your own servers and do all of these things. And just to do one little thing, because you had to custom code everything, used to cost you thousands of dollars. Right? Nowadays, it's so much cheaper and faster to get your products out the door. And so a lot of people think, oh, it's easy. I'm just going to tell the developer what to do. And if you don't tell the developer what to do properly, they're not going to understand it. They're going to think you said one thing, you think you said something completely different. And then $20,000 later, you realize, right, that there is a mistake. And so it's really important to know the process for how do you communicate effectively, what are the expectations, and do it in a way so that there's no miscommunication. And if you can eliminate that, and you know how to manage the developers properly, and I teach this to non-techies as well, right? You can't let the developers manage themselves. They won't. They're not trained in that. It's not up to them. So there's three things that are important for non-technical founders. There's three pillars. You need to have the skill set of the product manager. So this is managing what the product is going to look like, talking to customers and doing all these things, and then translating that to the developers, because developers never talk to customers. They don't understand them, right? And so it's your job to be able to do that. You also need to have the skills of the project manager to be able to manage the project and make sure that it moves forward. And you also need to have the technical, what I call being technically literate, right? You don't need to know how to code, but you do need to understand the language of tech people and how to spot the red flags, right? So that's all it is. It's about minimizing mistakes, being involved on a day-to-day basis, not letting the developers to take over, right? And just go off and do their thing. And I don't know, 3 weeks later, 3 months later, 6 months later, they come up and you realize that it's just the project is already too far down the wrong path, right? So in order to do this successfully, there's a very specific way that you're doing it, that you need to do it. And that's what essentially I got into teaching this, because I just heard so many horror stories. And now I teach entrepreneurs how to do it step by step by step. But those are the 3 required things. And if you're able to master that, nothing else stands in your way, because you are able to move things along. You're able to specify the requirements in a way that it makes sense. And then if you hire the wrong person, or if you are not performing, let's say your developers are not performing or understanding what you're saying, they said that they do, but they in reality, they don't. Yeah. Because you're involved on it every single day, and you're there and you're part of that team, you're going to be able to spot those red flags before they become big, giant problems. And that's the key.
I think you might answer my next question, because I feel like sometimes when you get a developer, maybe that's when you find a developer, how do you make sure that you're involved the right way so that it doesn't appear that he's doing all the work, or he or she's doing all the work? How does that work on that level? Because they'll feel that way. They'll feel like, I'm doing all the work. This is really mine. This is really my thing and not yours.
Well, I think when non-techies specifically hire a developer, they feel like, and again, this is mindset, right? This is not true. This is all mindset. There's imposter syndrome. There is fear. There is this developer God complex, and all of these things, which are absolutely not true, right? They come into play, and they're the biggest barrier for you. If your developer talks down to you and they treat you badly and they behave like they're the king, or they need to be doing all of the work and you're a nothing, that's a big red flag. That should never, ever happen.
Got it.
And so if you are in that relationship, you're always going to have problems, because your job as an entrepreneur is to solve problems for customers, not just build technology for technology's sake. Yeah. Technology is there to solve problems, right? This is where we started our conversation. And what a lot of developers tend to want to do is just focus on the technology. They don't necessarily want to solve the problems of customers, which is why it's so important for the non-technical person to do just as much work as the technical person, so that ultimately the end result, the product that you guys built together, actually solves a problem and not just has all the bells and whistles that no one actually wants or needs, right? Right. And so if you take this approach that, I'm inferior and this developer has all of the power, they have all of the knowledge, then you're going to make a lot of mistakes.
So where do we find a developer? First of all, where do we find them? And then how do we go about finding the right one?
Well, there's different types of, so the first thing is to understand that developers, right, have different skill sets. There's different types of developers. There's developers who only work on the web. There's developers who only build, let's say, WordPress websites, which are just websites, right? And then and this is another big miscommunication, because you don't understand that. You think, all tech people are the same, right? You could hire someone who's a WordPress developer to build you a mobile app, and they'll say yes to the project because they want the money, but they really can't do it. Right. And so, or the learning curve is too much. And that's where a lot of the delays might happen. So really understanding, what are you trying to build? What is the right way to build it? And then finding the appropriate developer to help you is really important. And for example, even if you want to build a mobile app, there's many different ways to build it. You can build a native mobile app. You can build a cross-platform mobile app. There's different technologies and different tools that you can use to build mobile apps, right? There's so many different things out there. You need to, and this is part of being tech literate, and understanding the landscape of what are the different tools and technologies that are available. How are modern applications being built? And then once you understand all of that, you can then say, well, this is what I need. This is how I want to do it. And then find the appropriate people to help and advise you. And this is, I think, one other thing that I think makes a lot of sense for people. If they don't even know what they don't know, you can hire somebody who is an expert who's not necessarily the person who's going to execute, but will help you think through all of the different options, right? Like a strategic advisor, or what I call a fractional CTO, or a higher level advisor. Yeah. They can help you think through all the different options. And then once you have a plan, you'll know exactly the type of developer you will need. They maybe even be able to help you assess their technical skill set, right? And then once you hire somebody, then you can manage them and get the project on board. So I think hiring developers is a tough thing, right? Once you understand who you need, you need to make a decision. Are you going to hire somebody full-time to work in your team, or are you going to outsource it? If you're going to be outsourcing it, there's websites like Upwork, probably the best way to find freelance developers. And you can offshore, which is another option, that if you know how to manage developers and using the process that I'm teaching you, you can save a lot of money because you're paying a lot less, right, for developers in another country, because the standard of living is very different, right? To them, getting paid $35 an hour is actually being at the top of your game. Yeah. And here, paying somebody $35 an hour for development is like at the lowest, like nobody's going to work for that. And so, you can get the cost savings. Plus, if you're able to manage them, that's a huge way to save money as well. The $5,000 versus $100,000, right? Like all of these things, they come together to equal what is your end result going to cost. And so, yes, knowing who you need to hire, the type of person that you need, using websites that are out there like Upwork to be able to find the right people. And then I think testing out is really important. No matter how good your hiring process is, you can still make mistakes. I've made mistakes all the time. The key is to listen to those, that gut feeling and the red flags that always appear, but you're like dismissing it because you want this thing to go right, right? The entrepreneurial ego that you have, and you don't want to admit that you made a mistake sometimes. The sooner you can address a mistake, the better off you are. The less money the mistake is costing you. To me, being a startup founder is all about minimizing mistakes, because you can't expect that you won't ever make a mistake. I still make mistakes every day, right? It's all about how do you minimize mistakes? How do you catch them sooner before they become big problems, big and expensive problems?
Awesome. I think you kind of finished up my last few questions. Unless you want to, what I was going to say is, like, I think people have these ideas of building an app and then that's it. But building is one thing. Getting through the bugs and the updates and so forth and maintaining it, that's another thing altogether. Because you'll have available, like, you hire a developer, they'll be like, okay, I finished it, thank you. Here you go. And then they can leave. And then you have this thing that is really not finished, because it's never a finished
right,
product.
It's never finished. So
how do you go about finding, I guess, the one? You really want somebody who's in it for the long term. This is an app is a long time thing, right?
Yeah. So you want to, I know there's a lot of people who want to find a technical co-founder or someone who can be their CTO or whatever you want to call it, right? Their tech person. Those people are very hard to find. And I have this whole notion that I teach my students called earning a technical co-founder. Because the reality is, people like me, they get pitched hundreds of times a day based on an idea, and based on this notion that every single entrepreneur who pitches me, they all think that they have a unicorn on their hand, right? And so when you're pitching people in just an idea stage, you're not attractive to anybody, right? And so what I want people to do is earn the right to pitch somebody. Yeah. And so there's 3 steps to earning a technical co-founder. The first one is to validate your idea and build a clickable prototype, right? These are all taking you from just being an idea to a more refined product, right? You can showcase that people are excited about this. If you're able to get letters of intent or even people prepaying you to build the solution, right? These are already insights for me to get excited about, that if I invest my time and money into this, that people are interested in this, right? So the whole goal is to take from an idea or from just being an idea to actually something more substantial. The second thing is to build an actual community, right? So people who, again, are interested in your type of product, that shows off your marketing skills as well.
Yeah.
And you're building your beta waiting list, all of these things. And finally, they invest some of your own money, which, the way that I teach you to build these things shouldn't cost you a ton of money, but your goal is to build your minimum viable product. So invest some of your own money into building the MVP. And having all of those three things will allow you to now go from, I need you, right? I need you to come and build this product for me, to here's a great opportunity, right? Like you see, this is a completely conversation shift. And so when you're pitching it from an opportunity perspective, then you're going to get a lot more yeses. Then you're going to get a lot more interest. And so the key is to not wait until that technical person will magically just appear at your door, because that never happens. The key is to earn your technical co-founder, make progress every single day, and parallel to that, start to build your network of technical contacts, build those relationships, so that by the time you have some kind of traction, you're going to be able to pitch to people who are much more likely to say yes to you. And so that's why, you're starting here, you're starting maybe with a development shop or offshoring and all of that, with the long-term goal of, I'm going to build a team and I'm going to earn that team, right? So you're not going to do this for the long term, but the more progress you make, the more traction you have, the more attractive you are to partners, to investors, if you want to go that route, to everyone else. Right? Because you're not just an idea anymore.
That's perfect. That's awesome. This has been great. You've been very, very, very helpful today, I must say. So I got one last question, and we can wrap this up. And it goes something like this. We have people who are watching now, be listening later, and they want to know, maybe they have similar journeys, similar interests as you, and they want to also help people, build their apps and so forth. You are the key to all. You're the true expert on this. So can you tell them, and I'll put you front and center, how they can become an authority in this space?
Yes. So get educated. If you are interested in building an app, I want you to go out and starting today, start to make an effort in learning about the industry, the space, understanding the lean methodology. Read the book, The Lean Startup, which is a great way to start changing your framework for how you're going to build this thing. You can also check out a lot of the free webinars that I have on TechSpeakForEntrepreneurs.com, teaching non-technical entrepreneurs how to do this properly, how to earn your technical co-founder, how to what is the process that you should be using for managing your developers. So there's lots and lots of resources. If you want to become an authority on something, you need to make sure that you have not only access to the resources, but you're actually doing the work of learning about that industry, so that you're not in a situation or in a position where you're trusting someone's advice without knowing how to verify it. You never want to be that person who goes to a mechanic when you don't know anything about cars, right? You literally believe everything they tell you. And so in order to become an authority on something, you need to know enough to be able to communicate effectively, to know how to ask the right questions, to know when to push back when well-meaning people are giving you bad advice. And so that's what I would recommend that you do.
Awesome. Perfect. That was great. That was awesome. I am honored to have you on here. You were just incredible, actually incredible. You answered all the questions just wonderfully. And I know that a lot of people get a lot out of this because it's a tough road building an app, right?
Yeah, it is. But it can also be very rewarding, right? Yeah. There's a lot of people who have ideas, who have opportunities, and in the most interesting ways, right? Like technology. In the next 2 years, if you're not in tech, you're not going to be relevant, right? Whether you want to or not, there's going to be technology everywhere. True. And the most amount of problems that need to be solved still in today's environment are in traditionally non-technical spaces, in home care, lawn care, healthcare, like anywhere you look nowadays, there needs to be technology solutions that can solve those problems. And I would encourage you to think about, if you have an idea, if you think that you have spotted some problem, don't make an excuse for yourself that, oh, I'm not technical, this is not for me. Go and explore and see if you can make this happen, because there are a lot of resources out there, and it is a lot cheaper than you think to bring ideas to life.
Awesome. And the segue into that, tell us about your resource. Where should they go after the show to find you?
Well, go to TechSpeakForEntrepreneurs.com. Like I mentioned earlier, I do free webinars every week. They're live, so you can ask questions. I am also on Clubhouse all the time. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Clubhouse. It's a new social networking app, audio app. So find me there. I do a lot of lives answering questions. So I'm there all the time. I'm a resource that I've worked with hundreds of thousands of different non-technical entrepreneurs, and I'm very passionate about making sure that you are doing this without wasting thousands of dollars, and doing it properly in a way that's empowering, right? That's really the key, because once you understand that this is possible, you actually can get excited about this.
Awesome. Everybody, check this girl out. She's awesome. I am so honored to have you here, that you were able to come and really dive into this topic. Really am. It is a wonderful day now that you're here, that you've come. And so I have no other questions for you. You've done your job well. And as I always say, as we wrap this up, people, I will say this one more time. Remember, build it, share it, and they will come. We'll see you next time. We're out of here.
Thank you.
And that's a wrap for this episode of The Authority Project. Thanks so much for tuning in. And if you like what you heard, we want to hear from you. Subscribe, rate, and give an honest review. Share and tell your friends so they can hear too. And for even more authority building tactics, be sure to sign up at theauthorityletter.com. Get free weekly content and ongoing digital product giveaways to help you on your entrepreneurial journey. We certainly hope you got a key takeaway, or maybe an aha moment from today's broadcast. Just remember, it's your authority. Build it, share it, and they will come. Until next time.